Preschool peeps, how are you? It's Monday.
Hello, hello.
And we're going to interrupt special programming for different special programming today. I don't know how to say.
We interrupt this special report for another special
report.
For
another special report based on the news. Allison and I were talking and we realized how important it is for us on this podcast. We have literally thousands of people listen to us. And now we have some people who watch us on YouTube. And we felt that we absolutely had to address the current events in relation to racism. So today's episode, not about what we've been talking about since March, but talking about something very serious from the perspective of early childhood educators and what we need to do with young children to make this a better world. That's our perspective, right?
Yeah.
So we've talked about this, Allison and I, through the course of the week. We sourced some information and material that we're happy to share with everybody, because I think it's important for people to understand that we in our generations were raised with false information about race as a whole, and what we now know. You need the research on what we now know put in a really understandable way, and we need to talk about what to do better, because if we want to eradicate terrible things like the racism that exists in our society and in our world, I really do believe that one of the first steps we have to take is doing better with the young children. They have to be raised right, different than we were. One of the messages that I know I got, and Allison, you may have gotten this message too, I don't know. But one of the things when I was a kid, when little kids would say things like, why is her skin brown? People would look at us and say, it doesn't matter, everybody's the same. That's not the truth.
Yeah.
We do not all have the same American experience. We talk all the time about how children are individuals. There are no two humans alike, and there are no two experiences alike. And for me to sit here and say, you're seeing a difference that doesn't exist is false. So we need better ways than the way we were raised to teach children about acceptance and tolerance. Anything you want to add to that, Allison, before we get into what we now know about what children see?
What we now know. When I was a kid, we got that too, but we also got you shouldn't see color. You shouldn't see. So we were raised with there is no color. I don't see color. We were raised with that. And it's
I remember that. I remember that whole, so I don't see color.
I don't see color. We were raised with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you're not seeing their color, you're not seeing them. It's like you've made them invisible. You made a whole large part of who they are not exist. And it's like,
and that's not respect. That's not respecting someone. To make them invisible is not respecting.
It's not respectful at all. That's how we were raised. Like, oh, everybody's equal. There's only one race. It's the human race, and there is no color.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So Allison and I found a graphic that Allison and I decided to explore sharing on YouTube with the people who can see it. But if you're on a podcast provider, as I know many of you are, don't worry, we're going to narrate it. You can also hop onto YouTube to see it, by the way. If you go onto YouTube and you go to How Preschool Teachers Do It on podcast, you'll find this episode there. Those of you on YouTube will see it in a second. I'm going to share my screen. Before we really narrate the graphic, which I have to locate on my computer, hang on one second. Before we really narrate the graphic, we need to say that, hang on, I'm finding it. Okay. We need to say that we owe a great debt of gratitude to the organization that allowed us to share this, and which is also on the slide. So let me go to, where is Allison? Where is the slide?
I know,
Hang on.
I'm not in your
Hang
computer.
on. I know.
I'm
Okay,
here,
so
but
those
not
of
there.
you who've been struggling with, I hope you feel good about the fact that you're not the only ones who struggle with technology, live and in person. When you're on Zoom sessions with kids and you're struggling, okay, I'm pulling it up. Hang on one sec. I really thought it was up, folks. I'm sorry, but it's coming right up. Okay, here we go. It's funny how you can close things on your computer and not realize you closed it.
Oh, yeah.
So, right? So, okay,
Yeah.
here we go. Now, at long last, I'm sharing this. Okay.
Nice.
So,
I love when you share things. Okay.
You're welcome. All right, so what you're looking at here, folks, is a slide that was created by the Children's Community School in Philadelphia. I wrote to them, and I asked permission to use their graphic, which they very graciously granted us. They asked us, of course, to credit them, which we would have done anyway, but to share with you the link to their website, which is over on the right of this slide. From where this is where the graphic is. I'm actually, for those of you on YouTube, after we share this and we talk about the information on this graphic, I'm actually going to switch the share screen to show you their website. After they gave me this link, I went to the website and I am so impressed by the resources they have there. So stay tuned, folks. I'll give you all a glimpse at it. Children's Community School in Philadelphia, www.childrenscommunityschool.org. /social-justice-resources /. Thank you so much for allowing us to use this, because we're about to educate a whole lot of people based on the research and work that you did.
This is great.
Isn't this great?
This is
so
awesome. Yeah.
I want to see if I can, now that we've given them credit, I want to see if I can make this a little bigger.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
So it says, they're not too young to talk about race. Folks, they are not too young. And what they did, this brilliant organization, is they divided by age what children see. And you can see it's based on research. How do you know that? Because there are citations from the resources in every one of the gray boxes that those of us on YouTube can see. And they've listed some good places to seek information and training, which we will go over. But first, let's look at what's in these boxes by age. And I'm just going to narrate this again for those people who are on a podcast provider listening to us, but also if you're watching, read along. Starting with at birth. At birth, babies look equally at faces of all races. At 3 months, babies look more at faces that match the race of their caregivers. So children are attracted at 3 months to people who resemble their caregivers, and they will look at those faces more. Children as young as 2 years use race to reason about people's behaviors in their own heads. By 30 months, most children use race to choose playmates. That's an incredible fact from 1997. This is not news.
This is not new.
Right? That is not news that by 30 months, most children are using race to choose playmates. Expressions of racial prejudice often peak at about ages 4 and 5, according to a resource from 2008. By 5, Black and Latinx children in research settings show no preference toward their own groups compared to whites. However, white children at the age of about 5 remain strongly biased in favor of whiteness. How fascinating is that?
That is fascinating.
Oh, but I'm enthralled with the research this organization did.
I know.
By kindergarten, children show many of the same racial attitudes that adults in our culture hold. They have already learned to associate some groups with higher status than others. That's based on research that was published in 2016. Explicit conversations with 5 to 7-year-olds about interracial friendship can dramatically improve their racial attitudes in as little as a single week. How amazing is that?
A single week, guys. A single week.
Single week, we can change their attitudes, right? Oh my goodness. Why is this not more widely published in ways that people can digest it. So on this graphic, the Children's Community School in Philadelphia has also put, young children notice and think about race. Adults often worry that talking about race will encourage racial bias in children, but the opposite is true. Silence about race reinforces racism by letting children draw their own conclusions based on what they see. Teachers and families can play a powerful role in helping children of all ages develop positive attitudes about race and diversity and skills to promote a more just future, but only if we talk about it. They have research where they found research and other resources for y'all to look up if you would like. Sites like Teaching Tolerance, which I use very often in my work with schools when I'm talking to them about being culturally aware and having equity. Teaching Tolerance is an amazing website. Raising Race-Conscious Children at .org. Embrace Race at embracerace.org. Teaching for Change is another website I personally have used for research. teachingforchange.org. I guess it's pronounced aorta. What do you think, Allison?
I think aorta.
Yeah. Aorta, like the heart. Yeah. Aorta Cooperative, AORTA.coop. Fortify Community Health, fortifycommunityhealth@gmail.com. I guess that's their email if you want information. Right? And Delaware Valley Association for the Education of Young Children. Shout out to the Delaware Valley Association of Macy that they found information on their site. Then that's dvaeyc.org. So this information on this graphic, by the way, if you are on a podcast provider and you don't want to go to YouTube to see this, I'm going to post another shout out to the Children's Community School in Philadelphia on our social media, on both my page on Facebook and on the How Preschool Teachers Do It podcast page. I'm also going to put it on Instagram, on my professional Instagram, because I can't shout this out enough.
This is amazing.
This information is, as much as I have spent a long time, and probably you too, Allison, understanding and knowing that we have to talk to children about their experiences and about what they're seeing, because it's not that they don't see differences, they do from a very young age. We have to talk about it properly, and we have an obligation to talk about it. You and I have talked about this before, we know that. Some of the facts that I just read and that we went over together are just so impactful.
Well, they're seeing all the differences, and the adults in their lives are ignoring talking about it.
It's also possible that people don't know how to talk about it.
Here it is. I think because of the way we were raised, you know, it was taboo to talk about race. You didn't talk about that. You just, you know, like, and so now we have a generation of adults that are uncomfortable talking about race. But the more you talk about it, the more comfortable you will become talking about it. And therefore the children, as they grow up, will be comfortable talking about it. You know, so you got to kind of change it a little bit. Change it so that you're not uncomfortable anymore.
We have to do a better job. Why is it that by 5, the Black and Latinx children in research settings show no preference toward their own group? However, white children remain strongly biased in favor of whiteness. Why does that happen? We can't, that is just, oh my gosh. And it speaks to the children's experience and what people haven't exposed them to and what they haven't said to them. I was having a conversation recently, I don't remember if it was with you, Allison, it might have been, where we were talking about children, I think it was, children who are in areas where they're not exposed to different cultures at all.
No, that I brought
that was us, right?
That was us.
So you had concerns about.
I had concerns about the area where I work is not very diverse. Therefore, the school is not very diverse. So I had concerns that the children were going to grow up with not having a lot of diversity amongst their friends, but also never have a Black teacher, never have a teacher of color until they're an adult. And I worried about how does that impact them? How does that impact, first off, the white children who are always just amongst other white children? How does it impact the Black children that are amongst all of these white children and never have a Black teacher? How does
I personally believe that's true of any culture, though. Any culture that is where you're not exposed to other cultures, and this, I'm going to generalize it. Any culture where you're not exposed to other cultures, I think that we need to give that some thought. It actually is an argument, Allison. It's an argument for our youth centers / pods and all that stuff. But it's also an argument for this. I think it's an argument for this. We've been talking in past episodes about how the system may need to change.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, Allison, when she said this to me about what about the kids who never have experience when they're young with other cultures and other races? And I said, you know what, Allison, maybe educational settings should actually be set up by the talents and interests of the children versus the location where they live.
Yes. And I applauded that.
Thank you.
When she said that.
Thank you.
Because that's the way it should be. Yeah. But yeah, it should be by interest, right? I mean,
instead of the location where you are.
Instead of the location where you are.
Which actually can be promoting a lack of understanding of other people, other cultures, and a lack of affinity for the importance of creating a society in which there's equity. And I want to share one more thing before we kind of keep moving forward on this topic in the very short time that we do these podcasts. This is such an important and deep topic that I hope we can do it justice in our time frame, Allison.
Yeah.
I want to do one more screen share. So we're coming out of the screen share, and hopefully I'll be more successful than I was before at finding, yes, I am. Okay, so this is the web page. This is the web page from the Children's Community School in Philly, their social justice page, and they gave us permission to share the graphic. They didn't even know we're going to share this page, but I know they won't mind because they want to put this information out in the world.
They want this out there.
Yeah, these are social justice resources that they have on childrenscommunityschool.org. When you go to childrenscommunityschool.org, click on social justice. In their menu, you will get to a page where it says, do you want to talk to your child about issues of social justice but don't know how? You're not alone. Most adults find topics like race, gender, and class difficult to talk about with children. But if we don't find ways to talk about it, children will learn whatever they can glean from unspoken messages, and that often doesn't work out well. The staff at CCS is always available to help you find strategies. Also, you may find some of the resources below helpful, and they have then a link to the graphic that we've shared and will share on social media, but they also have resources from around the internet. Look at this, Allison.
Amazing.
Isn't it? Oh my God. Tips. They have a section of tips and approaches where it talks about things like there are articles that they resourced from people. Articles like they're amazing. 7 things to do when your child points out someone's differences. Talking with children about racism, police brutality, and protests. 6 things isn't this great? 6 things white parents can do to raise racially conscious children. How to talk to little girls. And Mama, Ella has a penis, how to talk to your children about gender identity. How amazing is this?
This is amazing.
And then it has information and perspectives. My son has been suspended 5 times. He's 3 is one of the articles. Folks, that happens so much. Speaking Mexican in the use of mock Spanish in children's books, or do not read Skippy John Jones is an article. I never heard of that. Now I have to read this article.
Oh, now I have to read that one, yeah.
Right. When my 8-year-old gay son taught his class about Harvey Milk.
Wow.
What a great find that is.
This is great.
Right?
My son wears dresses, get over it.
Oh my gosh, please.
I actually want to send that article to someone. I know someone who, oh my God, this I love this website. This is my new spot. Okay.
This is truly my good new spot. And then they have a section that says, what can one little person do? And it says, perhaps you heard the song, What Can One Little Person Do on our album. I have not, but
There's
a
an
link.
album?
I don't know. Okay.
This is great.
And don't know how to talk to your children about the historical figures mentioned. Here are one sentence answers you can use if your child asks, who is that? Plus suggestions for children's books about each of them. And what they have here are links to information about Rosa Parks, Fannie Lou Hamer. Sorry, I don't. Hamer. For a long time, an unfair law said that children with different color couldn't go to school together. Ruby Bridges was the first child to go back to school with white children when the law changed. They have the story of Ruby, and Martin Luther King Jr., of course. So I want everyone to be aware of this website. I'm going to give one final on this episode shout out. The amazing people at Children's Community School. Thank you so much for the permission to use your information and for putting this out in the world so that maybe other people who might be listening to this podcast who have a stage to speak from, who have a staff they work with, who have family who need this stuff, who have children in their lives who would benefit from this education will go to your website and spread it. Again, you are doing amazing and impactful work, and keep it up. So I'm going to come out of this share so that now you all can see Allison and me, who cannot take credit. We cannot take credit for any of that, nor would I even attempt to.
Yeah.
I do want to say this on behalf of myself, and Allison, you can certainly add to it. I don't think that there's ever been a time in history in the course of my lifetime when it was more important for families and educators to say, all right, this has to change. We are living at a time now where we can watch history play out in a really positive way if we do it right. My sister lives on 6th Avenue in New York City. She has a bird's eye view to the marches and the protests. She's the one, Allison, that we go to on Thanksgiving to watch the parade go by.
Okay.
So she's now watching these parades under her window. She's been sending me pictures from her window.
Yeah, you sent me one of those photos. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I get emotional when I look at it and choked up, because I think we are at a pivotal moment, folks. We have to educate ourselves about how to teach children what is actual acceptance and promotion of equity. And we have to, I think we have to recognize our privilege. I also don't think it helps anything to say there is special privilege.
Oh yes, there is. Yeah, there is.
And until you recognize that, folks, nothing is going to change.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was on Facebook, and I ordinarily try to avoid posting particularly political things. I find that when people, I'm not changing anybody's mind on Facebook with comments. I'm not, but I couldn't help. I saw a comment on a post where basically, and I've seen it many times, basically someone was saying that racism in our country, in the United States, doesn't exist because we all have opportunity. And I went on there and I said, let me tell you something. I, as somebody with white skin, have never had to teach my children not to wear a hoodie. I have never had to teach my children about putting their hands on the dashboard.
I didn't have to worry about jogging in my neighborhood.
That's right. I never had to teach my children that. I've never been followed in a store.
Right. I never had to be worried if I got pulled over in my car.
That's right. Okay. I have never had to have these conversations with my children, and that, folks, is my white privilege.
Yeah.
So
there's one of my friends posted, and I don't know where now, if I could even find it, but it was basically explaining the whole white privilege. It was like, here's Johnny, and there was like there was a white boy and a black boy, and they lived in the same town, but different streets. And here's the opportunities that he got, and here's the opportunities that he got. And it's totally different. Okay. And they live in the same town. Okay. It's like this great little like cartoon.
Allison, video. you and I are both Caucasian. You and I are both white, right? You and I have not had the same American experience. No.
No.
We have not. We grew up differently. We grew up in
Yes.
different neighborhoods. We are of different religious beliefs. We have not had the same American experience. I don't know what makes people think that everyone has the same American experience. And I'm sure that's true of people in other countries who may be listening to us. I know we have a contingent in Canada, for sure. And I know other countries. But, and I just want to say, we're not putting this episode out there based on any particular ideology. We are putting this episode out there to say, folks, we have a golden opportunity to do better with children. Allison, tell them about, there was a march right outside your window, right?
There was a march outside my window today. So I think I've mentioned on here before, I live in front of a soccer field, and the march started at the soccer field where they had a rally for about an hour and people spoke, and then they were going to go into town and walk down the street. Okay. So I'm on my deck watching it because I wanted to hear the speakers. And here's what I saw. I saw a lot of people there. I mean, there was over 100 people there. It was great. But I also saw families there. And I thought that was really awesome that parents are bringing their children to these rallies and these marches to teach them. But I saw a lot of kids who were just running around on the soccer field and not paying attention and not with their family and not listening to what was going on. They were just using it as to be kids. They were just running around. If you're going to bring your child to a protest, a march, a rally, monuments, whatever you want to do, use it as an educational experience. Sit with your child, listen to the speakers, answer any questions that they have, discuss what they did and what they saw afterwards. That's how you teach the kids. Letting them run around while you are protesting is not teaching them. Like they're not hearing it, and they're not even understanding the value of the protest. So use it as an educational experience. Use it as a talking point. Use it as a discussion opener. If you're going to bring your child to these things, then use it appropriately and open up the dialogue.
We can make the world better. What if we were to say to young kids, there are a lot of really upset people about something that happened. We can make the world better.
Yeah.
And put that notion in their heads. It isn't just fine the way it is. It was just fine the way it is. This wouldn't have happened.
Oh my God. If it was fine the way it was, we wouldn't be in this situation.
We would not be in this situation. Put it on the list of things that need to change in this year of 2020. This year, if it has not pointed out what needs to change, then I don't know what will. Yeah. Between our systems, our educational systems, our childcare systems, our workplaces, our medical system, our healthcare system, and the way that we teach about, perceive, and care for people of all different ethnicities, cultures, races. If we have learned nothing else than that 2020, the beginning of the new decade, needs to be a cleansing and change and just doing better, then I don't know. What is that saying, Allison, about there's a saying where people believe, the thing about God knocking multiple times until you hear the knock or something.
Oh.
Do you know that saying? I'm gonna mess it up.
Yes.
The whole like you get a knock on your door multiple times, and every time it has to be knocked on, it's louder and louder. So every time a person's been killed because of the color of their skin, or every time someone's been followed in a store for no good reason, every time someone is pulled over just because of how they look, every time these things are in the news, how many times does this have to happen until we hear that everything needs to change? Now, I will say this. In our state, I don't know if you saw the presser. There's been so many press conferences. In one of the press conferences that the governor did in New Jersey, Governor Murphy did in New Jersey, they were talking about changes that they were already starting to put underway in our police department in New Jersey that now they are, of course, going to escalate and just make happen faster. he was talking about how in New Jersey, it's one of the states, some of the states already do this, but it's one of the states that didn't have a certification program for police officers. They're going to have to be certified in the future. There's going to be different education. They're considering the different educational levels. There's going to be different training. So they already are talking about, here's what we're going to change in regard to how police officers are trained and qualified and whatever. But, you know, and I think this about the protests too, if we don't take that and make change, then it was not, what was it for? All these people who are, now we have to change things. Now we have to take it and do better. Part of doing it better, sort of the lane you and I swim in, is we have to do better with young children.
Yeah.
And you know what? We've talked a long time about putting representation of all different cultures and skin color in our classrooms. So we've got books depicting diversity and we have pictures depicting diversity. I don't know if we talk about it enough though, in good ways.
Because I think a lot of people think, oh, well, it's represented. That's good. You know what I mean? Look, I got different cultured dolls. Good. They say, no, you need to talk about it. You need to talk about it. You need to act it out. You need to do it all. Like you need to discuss it, not just throw it all in your class and be like, oh, that's good. You know what I mean? No.
Did you say, Allison, did you say you found another website that had good material?
Yes, I did. It's called socialjusticebooks.org.
Social justice, I'm looking it up while you're saying. Social
justicebooks.org.
.org.
Yeah. And it'll take it has different like categories even. Like you can click on activism and it'll bring up all these books according to your age group, about activism. If you want to talk about diversity, here's another you can click on this and it brings up all this. It has I think you can even sign up for newsletters or something on there too. I mean, it's really awesome. I mean, if you're looking for books, then there you go. It's there. I mean, and they've broken it all down for you already, according to age and according to topic.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
So it was what? Tell everybody again.
socialjusticebooks.org.
Okay. So I hope that you will go to the resources that Allison and I spoke about today and go to our Facebook page, How Preschool Teachers Do It podcast, and take a look at some of the resources because we just have to do better. And I'm not even saying you know how to talk about it. I'm saying go to the resources. You can learn, folks. We can learn. I can learn. I know we all have to learn about this who weren't raised with it.
Yeah.
One of the most fascinating classes I took in graduate school was about cultural awareness and cultural sensitivity. I learned so much.
Yeah.
There's only one way to make the world better, and that's to educate yourself. Educate yourself by learning about the experiences of others. Educate yourself about what the research shows. Educate yourself about how to talk to young children, or it's not getting better.
No, it's not.
Not getting better. You know, when I was a kid, there were, marches and protests. When I was a kid, I was born a couple days ago, and, and there were things in the 1960s, and now we're in 2020, and here we are again. It shouldn't have been. There wasn't enough change over the years. There just wasn't.
No.
Shouldn't be. And so I hope that those of us who listen to this and watch us are inspired to be the change. Isn't that what they say? Be the change.
Be the change.
Be the change. And you work with young kids and you're raising young kids, so please be the change.
Yeah.
All right. I think are we feeling better now, you and I?
I think so.
I think we feel I feel a little better.
A little better.
It doesn't do a lot, but
a little.
Okay, folks. We're going to sign off this episode. Let all the criticism commence about this episode. Listen, you and I have been criticized for less than our opinions about.
But I think we need to, we're all learning.
Yes.
And we need to learn. And I think that's the first step is learning. So.
And folks, if you feel like there's a resource we didn't talk about that you know is awesome,
please let us know.
or a perspective that people who want to do right by young children need to know, we welcome it. Right? Our contact form is on our website, howpreschoolteachersdoit.com. Feel free to contact us. And, you know, we're just going to stand our sacred ground and say, please think about how you can do better as we raise this next generation, this shelter in place, racial, what's the word I'm looking for? Racial tolerance needing, education needing generation. Yeah. I don't. Okay, folks. Till next time on the podcast.
Bye.
Catch you soon.